So, welcome to this little Q&A session. We've had loads of questions, so I'm not going to be able to answer everything right now, but I've selected a few, and if your question's not read out now, it may well get done on the next one. So I'll start off with Alan Nicholson's question. Don't know if you can answer this one, or perhaps don't want to, but do the cars on Car Sausage, do the builds all overlap, or are they done at the same time? Right, okay, so what we do with Car Sausage is we get the first car in, we'll strip it down, drop the engine and gearbox out of it a lot of the time, front suspension, rear suspension, get the interior out. Then, while the metalwork's being done, so any welding and all that kind of stuff, we'll work on the engine, work on all the other components, and get them all done and together. We'll get the underside of the car all spruced up and start putting things back on, and then shift it into the body shop. In the meantime, then the next car comes in, we strip that one down, we kind of unitize everything. So it all kind of overlaps. And sometimes we'll have the cars for more than 4 or 5 weeks because of getting the cars away from the people. We don't want to get caught while we're doing that. But generally speaking, if you put all the cars end to end, that will be 18.3 days per car over the 26-week period that we have them for. So we have to have them in for longer because we get about 21 working days on them, but about 700 hours. So I hope that answers your question, Alan. Next one is from Alison Clark, and she says, what happened to the Audi Quattro that went to auction after the owner's sad death? Well, most unfortunately, Barry died last August 2016. But I don't actually know whether his car has been sold because these things can take a little while to sort out, and I guess his family needs to take it easy. So best wishes to all of Barry's family, and I don't know whether it's gone to auction yet, but we'll have to see. Maybe it has done, but I'll try and follow up on that. Paul Cowland writes, "Can you dig it?" Hell yeah! You know what I mean. PWEI fans will know exactly what that's all about. Right, so Tim Coronel, I know you from Australia. You had a Daimler and you took me around Melbourne in it. He says, how's the 541 going? Well, actually, here I am in the 541. I've put some of the glass in. I'm just doing sort of like a rough build to see which parts are missing. And I'm going to get it on the road pretty soon, hopefully in the next 3 or 4 weeks. It's going all right. Hey! Paul Kidd writes, do people recognise you more from the cars or the music? Well, nowadays it's more from the cars actually, but I did get a surprise in Sainsbury's the other day when somebody said, you're Fuzz Townshend out of Bentley Rhythm Ace. Really surprised me actually. So yeah, more the cars I guess. There's one from here from Little Mike Brewer, who says he's from the USA and he's having a lovely time over there doing some cars like what you does, Fuzz, it says here. Grammar's a bit rubbish. But anyway, he says, do you look in the mirror before you leave the house? Well, Mike, I don't need to look in the mirror before I leave the house because I know that I look great. I always dress fancy, not in fancy dress. Besides that, with my cultural heritage, it's part of my heritage to actually look good at all times. I'm on the money. Oh yeah. Loving the coach driver chic, by the way, Mike. See you in a bit. Brian Costello writes, has there been any of the restorations that initially you had no interest in that afterwards you really wanted to hold on to? Well, actually, a lot of the cars I'd like to hold on to, but on Car SOS, my favourite 3 cars have been the AC Seeker, the Austin Tilley truck, and from Series 1, the Austin 12.4 Clifton Tourer. Loved that Clifton Tourer. That was absolutely brilliant. Hold on. What classic open wheel car do you think gives similar driving experience as a Bugatti T35? So, same. This is from Brian. I don't know because I've never driven one of those Bugattis. I've never driven a Bugatti ever. So I can't tell you. And he also writes, what do you think is the biggest error owners of classic cars make during their ownership of it? Right, so biggest error, not using them, not driving them. Don't mess around with sort of, wait until you've got the last little clip to take your car out. Just enjoy it. Who knows what's around the corner? And he also says he loves the show. Thank you for watching, Brian. That's brilliant. Thank you. Right, Tony Barbados says, what size sticks do you use? I use Vic Firth 7A nylon tip, so that's 7A ends. Quite light sticks. I'm a bit of a jazzer. And he also says coated or clear drum heads. Well, I generally go for coated heads. Don't know why, but I like them. And I use Code drum heads normally, a great British brand. So Johnny Holmes writes, it's not the Johnny Holmes that I used to know when I was little, brother of Billy, Robert and Peter, I don't know, could be. Says, yes, Fuzz, why do you wear those silly hats? Well, I don't wear any silly hats, Johnny. I just wear these lovely hats. So, and besides that, I used to wear hats. I've worn hats ever since I was a kid. My sister bought me one when I was about 12 and I loved it. So I've worn them ever since then, since about 1977. And in fact, on my first week working on the buses, I got the nickname of Benny, because Benny was a character in a show called Crossroads, and he wore a woolly hat like I did. So I got called Benny. And I've got a theory that beanie hats are not actually beanie hats. I reckon that they come from Benny hats. So there, hope I've answered your question, Johnny Holmes. Darren Lister, what is your kit setup first? Right, okay, my drum kit is the core of it is a 1962 Premier Club kit, a little tiny one, 20-inch bass drum. But I use an old 14-inch piccolo snare that I bought. It's a pearl one, which I bought maybe 30 years ago. Fully floating heads, not many people like them, but I do. A 12-inch rack tom, 14-inch floor. And yeah, that's it really. A few cymbals dotted around, depends what I'm playing. Blake Aiden Newell says, what's your favourite car you have owned, and what's your favourite car that you've done on Car SOS? Favourite car I've owned? It's got to be this one, this Jensen. I've had it for 8 years, and I'm only finally getting to the stage where it's going to be back on the road. I might even have a drive of it this afternoon, because I've got to spin it round. Favourite car on Car SOS? Well, I said a bit earlier, I think it has to go to the Austin 12 Clifton Tourer that we did in Series 1. I'd love to have gone home with that car, but unfortunately I haven't, and as of yet I haven't had any spare money to actually buy one, so eventually one day I'll be able to get one, I hope. Right, Nick Parkin says, if you're in a vehicle going the speed of light, what happens when you turn on the headlights? I don't know. Well, maybe if I turn on the headlights and I'm going at the speed of light, the light is travelling at the speed of light plus the speed of light. I don't know. So maybe to get that, yeah, so maybe the lights shine forward. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. Neither am I a mathematician. I use a calculator for that. So I'm sorry, Nick, I can't tell you. Can you? John Sale, also known as Sal, he says, with a BR. Right. Now, there's a story behind this. Now, John Sale used to be the sound engineer for Pop Will Eat Itself, and we were in Little Rock, Arkansas, getting some lunch one day, and John Sale was ordering his meal, and the waiter said after he'd ordered whatever he'd done, you know, his starter and his mates, he said, "With a beer?" And John Sale said, "Oh, yes, please, yeah, that'll be nice." And the guy goes, "With a beer?" He goes, yeah, I'll have a beer. But actually what the guy was saying was, will that be all? It was just his strong Little Rock accent. So, with a beer? Yeah, always with a beer. Scott Grant says, what's the best classic to transport a full drum kit in? Well, I've transported my drum kit in many classics, and I could fit my whole kit into my Daimler Dart. So, to date, that has been the best car transport my drum kit in. Won't fit every kit in, but that's because I don't use drum cases as well, because I'm a bit slack like that. Can't be bothered. You have to take the drums out, put them back in. Yeah, Daimler Dart, Mini, Ford Fiesta, done them all. Alexander James Grant says, what determines a classic? Well, my personal view is a classic is a car that you use mainly for pleasure. So a classic can be bought straight out of a showroom. I mean, you know, you could have a new Alpha 4C or 8C or something like that. That could be a classic. Okay, it's going to be called a modern classic or a future classic. Still a classic. So anything you use for pleasure, I reckon. Car-wise, of course. And finally, Adam Crowhurst says, what got you into mechanics? Well, my foster dad was the training manager for Fort Dunlop in the 60s and 70s, and so I kind of picked up a little bit from him, and then I wanted to be a bus driver actually at one point when I was a little kid, and I had a bus driver mate called Sam Ramsey who said, you don't want to drive buses for a living. It's not the thing to do. If you're going to work on the buses, be a mechanic. So bang, instantly I thought, right, I'm going to be a bus mechanic. I loved fixing my old bikes and building go-karts and stuff like that, so it's a natural progression. And I've been both a mechanic and a drummer for pretty much the same time. Started both when I was probably about 10 or 11, I suppose, properly at working on cars and stuff like that. And in my cousin John Wardrop's garage up in Linlithgow, Regent Motors, if you must know. And I also started my first gigs around the same time. So yeah, been doing all the same. So that's what got me into mechanics. My old man, Sam the bus driver, and not forgetting Bill Brown from West Midlands PTE, who was a garage engineer at Cleveland Road, and also Tony Hicks, who used to live down the road and worked for West Midlands Buses as well. He helped me get into it. I love it. I'm still doing it. Just got my hands dirty, looking everything. Sitting here doing my Jensen. It's nice. It's a good way to go. So anyway, if I haven't answered your question, hopefully I'll get around to doing it maybe next week or something like that. And keep the questions coming because I love doing it. I'll see you later. Toodle pip.